Such an honor to speak with you today. I am just really inspired by what you have done, but I want to start before the guardian cap of it all. You've gone from being a mom of five to an entrepreneur. Did you know that you always wanted to get into entrepreneurship, or talk to me about that?
That would be a no.
Okay. Okay.
No, I started out, Lee and I married very young. I was 19, he was 22. So we married a week after he graduated from Georgia Tech.
Wow.
So I didn't finish my degree until we had been married for a year.
Okay.
So I switched my degree over and decided to be a math teacher so that I would have the same. I knew we wanted a big family. That was something we agreed on. And I thought, you know what, I want to be on their schedule. So
Yeah.
when they're off for Christmas, I'm off for Christmas. So I thought, you know what, I love education. I love learning. I'll be a math teacher.
Yeah.
So that's how I started out. And then it quickly became unmanageable because we did have that big family. So I stayed home. I homeschooled for 4 years. We did everything, super, super involved, just lots of adventures and enjoyed the heck out of being a stay-at-home mom. And at the same time, Lee had launched the Hanson Group.
Yep.
And so we have a material science business. And so I was involved from an entrepreneurial edge from that aspect, just because I helped him get everything up and running. We're entertaining together, we're going over things together, we're setting up the business together, processes, that kind of stuff. So I was always involved, but not in the office all day, every day kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And then you became an empty nester, and
Not, no,
not yet.
no, no. I
Okay.
had one graduate from Georgia Tech, one was at Georgia State who had just gone through brain cancer. That was interesting.
Wow.
I had another one that was at Georgia Tech. I had a senior in high school and an eighth grader.
Okay. And what happened? Tell us. We're on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, it was bedlam, sheer chaos. Um, Lee had in 2010, Lee had done some development work on the Hanson side for a company that wanted to flex the exterior shell of the football helmet and
Okay.
felt that the hard shell helmet had done its job. It had prevented skull fracture, but now we needed to do something about the long-term repercussions from what was happening with the brain. And so they contracted Lee to flex that exterior shell. That was deemed way too ahead of its time in 2010.
Hmm.
The narrative was revenue comes from television. And what do you need on television? You need sound. So we need that.
Oh,
Yeah, I felt the same way. We need that, and we need to replay the hard hits, and that's where the engagement comes from. And because I had an eighth grader, and because it was my first son, and because he was starting to play football, I said, well, that's not going to work.
hmm. Truly.
We have got to do something for these players. And now this is my son's brain you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so Lee and I looked at each other and said, do we really want to tackle this issue? Because it doesn't look like this is going to be a B2B, solve the problem, sell it to somebody. This looks like it's going to be creating a whole new way of doing things. And it's not going to be easy. And are we up for this?
Yeah.
And when you're 45 and you've raised five children, you're real tired.
Truly, I can only imagine.
You're really tired and you think, what I'd really like to do is go to a beach somewhere. But we said, you know what, let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can truly develop something that we feel could help and certainly isn't going to hurt. So from 2010 to 2012, we developed it and we tested the heck out of it and we invested a lot in it. And we did try to sell it along the way and wrapped it up in patents to make it even more valuable to whoever chose to take it on and did all the groundwork for it, and nobody was interested. That looks funny, it's ridiculous, nobody wants that on their helmet, you're wussifying the game, it's a mushroom cap, it's ugly, it's stupid, it's soft, it's all of those things.
Right.
And the test results that we were getting was that it was reducing those impacts up to a third. And that's huge.
That
And
is.
we said, you know what? For us, we're a family of faith. We felt we were being called to do something, and we felt as though someone had to do something. And apparently it was determined that that was going to be us. And
Oh,
so that's why we stuck with it. So here we are 15 years later.
wow. And what a 15 years it's been. But I love the notion that it was your son and your son's health that really kind of pushed you over the edge that this actually something needs to be done here.
Right.
And I imagine that since that time, you've heard so many stories of people who similarly have felt this urgency to have these players more protected, their brains more protected. Can you speak to kind of what it's like to humanize the issue? Because yes, TV is important and ratings are important, but at the end of the day, these are humans on the field.
Right. I think the thing that really pushed us forward in a huge way was talking to former players.
Yep,
Because you hear the stories of, and you read the scientific studies of, these are the long-term repercussions of CTE, and for every 2.6 years they play, their risk of CTE doubles. So you hear the stats,
yep,
and you hear, but it's so removed from the human aspect, and then you get former players in.
yeah.
We had Freddie McCrary in our office who had a helmet that he and Junior Seau in practice. Junior cracked Freddie's helmet.
Oof.
And for Freddie, that was like, dadgum, that was like a badge of honor. And he had Junior sign his helmet. And he said, man, that helmet sat in my living room. And I was like, damn, I had a hard hit from Seau, and he's this incredible player. Well, then Junior commit suicide. And now Freddie can't look at the helmet because it just breaks his heart,
Wow.
and so Freddie wanted us to protect his son. And
Yeah,
we had Jerome Bettis, and we had Ron Haynes and Tim Lester. And, these guys weren't part of the Steelers' heyday. They won the Super Bowl,
yeah,
and they said, "Hey, we're going to form a league in Milton, Georgia, called the Milton Steelers, just so our kids have access to Guardian caps."
yep.
And we work with us, and we're like, absolutely. So we donated to those who couldn't afford it, and they were like, hey, if they can afford to write a check, they're going to write a check. And Tim would drive in with a stack of checks to get more caps for kids. But what was sad was that his wife would have to call every time he came. Erin, Tim's on the way.
Mm.
He's going to get lost. I need you to look out for him.
Sheesh.
It was that was sad. It was
Yeah,
sad. Some of that was sad.
yeah. And I think humanizing these issues, taking them out of the stats, really is what changes it for other people. So, okay, over the last 15 years, this was developed, and then the big the big kicker is you had to take it to these really powerful people to convince them to implement it or to use it or to at least give it as an option, right? So can you talk me through the experience of going to the league, the National Football League with the Guardian Cap?
Oh my word, that was 7 years after we started, Lily.
Yeah,
That was a long, this was the boots on the ground, showing up at trade shows, being laughed out of every room, showing up at the safety meetings, and people looking at you like you're a snake oil salesman. And you're like, whoa, 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 we're not like in our garage somewhere. We actually have a science company, we have engineers, we have labs, we've done testing, but you just have to pay your dues.
yeah,
You just do. And the helmet manufacturers are over there looking at you like, what the heck are you people doing? And, it's not like you're welcomed with open arms and everybody singing Kumbaya.
totally, totally. Well, I think change is hard within something like sport, which holds so many traditions.
Right.
And people love their sports. They've loved their sports since they were children with their grandpas on the couch and watching their team. So that's why I feel like change is hard, and we still see it today. Even like Bad Bunny being named as the Super Bowl
Yeah.
performer, people are up in arms about it because it's a primarily Spanish performer. So change is hard. So you had this time, this period of like ridicule almost from people.
Right.
But then things did turn around.
You just have to keep showing up. So the worst show we did was the Texas High School Coaches Association because they don't want anything to change in the state of Texas. And so that was our worst show. And so we said, hey, we're not getting anywhere with the football coaches. We'll do a medical conference. So we showed up at a medical conference, and it was crickets. And on the last day, in the last hour, a gentleman walked by and said, well, that makes perfect sense. And we're like, what? And it was the team physician, Dr. Guy, for the Gamecocks.
Mm,
And so they were willing to give us a shot. And players loved it. The coaches loved it. I feel better after practice. My head's not fuzzy. I'm not having a headache. The coaches are loving it also because wow, our players aren't going down on some practice drill on Wednesday. I've got a full roster of guys to choose from on game day. So it took that opportunity from one person to kind of make a slight breakthrough, and we just took it from there and ran with it. But we didn't really get on the NFL's radar until they opened up something called the Head Health Tech Challenge in 2017.
okay.
And so we applied for that. And we won. And so that put us on their radar and provided us with testing and more validation.
How did that feel?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Just to be able to say, see, we told you
Yeah.
this works. It does. We got it. So yeah, that was awesome.
And also, when you were presenting these cases to these leagues, these coaches, did you take some of those stories of former players that you had learned?
We did. It's a hard sell, and to their credit, I mean, they've got small budgets, right? These high schools are trying to pay for a lot of things. And it's like, I'm already paying this much for a helmet, and now you're telling me I need this on top of it.
Yeah.
So I get it. It took a long time, and our tactic was, look, if you can do the O line, D line, and start with 10 units, start with 20 units, and go from there, you'll see the difference it makes. And at the high school and youth level, these things are lasting 3 years, 5 years.
Wow.
So, a $50 cap over 5 years is $10 a year. It's not as expensive, but it is. It's hard to work something into a budget that wasn't already there.
Right. But I think at the end of the day, like convincing people that this is a human issue, not just a budget issue, not a look cool issue. This is about players' health.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you something that might feel controversial, but it really shouldn't be. Do you feel like these coaches and these doctors and these team owners and league owners that you've worked with care about player health?
I do. I really do. I really do. We've got some great ones. I mean, there's always that hard-nosed coach that comes up at a trade show and says, "What the hell are these things? I got my bell rung 15 times and I'm fine. Now, what's your name again?" And you're like, "Exactly."
Right.
So there's those guys, but
Yeah.
honestly, the more we know, the more these coaches care.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I mean, their numbers were going down. They knew something had to change. The moms who are saying, "I don't want my son to play tackle football," and they're like, "Man, there's so many great benefits from sports, from team sports and character, and growing responsibility and discipline and all of those things. We need sports. We just need to do it in a better way." So I think they knew. I think they knew it was heading that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any potential of this type of a science? I don't even know what to call it. The Guardian Cap reaching other leagues, other sports?
Yes. So we've got lacrosse goalies that will wear it. If it's a lacrosse helmet, we shrunk it down for hockey. And so we've had youth hockey players. I don't know that you're going to get a tried and true older hockey guy in it, but we'll
Truly.
see.
Yeah, truly.
But no, we've expanded, as we've identified different issues in sports. So we have a new chin strap that I'm super proud of because half of all helmet to helmet hits are face mask to face mask.
Mhm.
And so no one's done anything about that. And so we're like, I've got it. Hang on. This is our chin strap. It looks like a camera's inside. It's not. It's a hydraulic system. So
Wow.
when that face mask is hit, instead of that entire system pulling the head back, snapping the head back, it's a soft braking system. So it reduces the impact. So we've got that. We've got a headband for flag to take the impact off of the flag hits because I love little guys in flag.
Yes.
The 5, 6, 7-year-old learning the game, loving the game. Flag is awesome for them. So we've got a pearl lacrosse ball that's the official ball of PLL and NCAA. When our son started, he was a lacrosse goalie at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
And we said, hey, that ball is hard as a cue ball. How can we make that better? So we make the only ball in the US right here in Georgia. So our pro ball is good. So anyway, as we see things, we
Yeah.
try to solve the problems.
Wow, that is so powerful. If I could have you explain the mission of what you're doing in a few words, I mean, I know how what I view it as, but what would you say in your words is the mission?
It's to better protect athletes and through improvements and performance and safety.
Yeah, amazing. And that's I think the most important part of all of it is sports are fun, sports are unifying, sports are important part of our culture, but if these athletes are not kept safe, then what is it worth?
Right, right. Yeah, the mission is always we define success in the number of athletes served. So, like I said, we didn't start this out. And we were in the red year after year after year, just funding it through the Hanson Group. And, we said, hey, if we ever make it even, it'll be considered a success. And think of how many athletes we've served along the way. So it's really neat to see the doors that have opened.
Yeah, I mean, big teams, big leagues that you have reached. What are you most proud of? There's so much to be proud of.
We're just proud of every one of those caps that go out the door.
Yeah.
That's a player's brain. That's a child's future. And we
Yeah.
think of them as sons and brothers and fathers someday and grandfathers someday. And we want them to get all the benefits without those long-term repercussions that a lot of those former players are facing.
Yeah. Is there sights set on, I mean, Olympics, anything like that?
We'll see because our lacrosse ball Olympics are going to have flag and lacrosse. So fingers crossed, maybe.
Okay, fingers are
We're
crossed for
trying.
you. This is a selfish question on my part, but I'd love to hear your experience as a working mom because you weren't an empty nester when this started. So, how did you? Don't believe that there's anything as balance. Balance doesn't exist, but how were you able to juggle both?
Our poor children. I mean, poor Jake, as a middle school football player, and we're pulling this thing out of the trunk at every tailgate. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, for the love of God, put that thing away, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now he's our COO.
Oh
So,
my goodness. Wow. I love that.
so it's been quite a journey, but those poor children had to hear, when you're operating a business like ours, you have to live it, sleep it, eat it, breathe it, or it doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
so, the kids had to hear it for a long time, but it's neat now that it's a family mission. Caitlin, our oldest, heads up our marketing team. I've got a sister working with us. A son-in-law is our VP of sales. So we love coming to the office because we've got, oh gosh, I forgot about Alex, our daughter that I was talking about that had brain cancer in college is
Ah,
our accountant, and she heads up our infill division.
wow.
So lots of kids, lots of grandbabies come by. We got 10 grandbabies now. So
Oh,
we have lots of grandbabies come by. So it's become fun. But working was tough. I mean, getting it off the ground was tough. I can remember Jake, he would call and say, what's for dinner? And I'd
yeah.
say, oh my gosh, Daddy, and I didn't tell you we're in California for a trade show. Oh, shoot. But my parents lived behind us. And I said, Mimi and Papa, no, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you.
Makes me feel better. And now
Yeah,
it all worked out.
it
Every,
all worked out. Everybody's safe. Everybody made
oh,
it.
I love it. Okay, last question, but since the release, since the collaboration with the NFL, have there been any stories that have really touched your heart about what this is doing for people?
Absolutely. I mean, just the parents that write in,
Yeah.
we got to be on Columbine High School early on. Andy Lowry was their head coach, and after the Columbine massacre, he called up and said, "Erin, we're going to heal these students
Mm.
through team sports." And he said, "I want to show these parents that nothing's more on our heart than safety." And stories like that,
Yeah.
we
Wow.
have a lot of those. A
Wow.
lot of those. It keeps you going, that's for sure.
I love it. Well, I love when I see a guy choosing to wear a Guardian cap. It's just, you know, they're prioritizing something bigger than the game.
Well, I feel like they're prioritizing their future and their family's future
Yeah.
because, the guys that we come in, Freddie McCrary will tell you, I'm in a dark room a day or two a week with migraines. That doesn't help his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a hard time with former players that you see spotlighted in the news for doing things that, are not so good. And I'm always asking, myself, is that a decision they would have made had their brain not been impacted? And so, we expect them to leave it on put their whole self into the field, but they shouldn't leave everything there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's hard.
exactly. No, I mean it's so true. There's really nothing more important than player safety, in my opinion, and I'm just so impressed with what you've done to help
Thank
increase that. So thank you